The Londonpreneur Show with Michelle Carter.
Welcome to another episode of The Londonpreneur Show, where I interview a new entrepreneur every week. Today's guest is Jodi Simpson from City Match. Welcome, Jodi.
Thank you very much, Michelle. I'm really pleased to be on the show today.
That's great to have you here. And for those who've never heard of City Match, what would you describe it as?
Well, City Match is a destination and settlement service provider that provides a soft landing for companies that are relocating talent to the city. Mm-hmm. That's individuals, couples, and families. So what I do is I provide a real soft landing. In the case of providing them with somebody who is coming from Toronto, from China, what have you, I help them find a suitable neighborhood, home, help them with a daycare, doctor, dentist, school information, help them just really find a firm footing in their community and establish a place of belonging to. It's important, settlement is much more than a house or home. It is about belonging and finding a meaningful connection and meaningful life here in their new city.
And feeling part of the new community.
That's right. And I was mentioning beforehand that that moving from another community is everything you've known and relied on just disappears overnight. And so this service, I think, is really, really important to help them move quickly, settle quickly. Employers really want that, so that they know that their people are not being stressed out, not pulling 15 hours a day because they're working at their new job and then trying to figure out how to get around the city and find their places. So
you really give that hands-on approach from one-on-one to get them involved.
Very hands-on. It's called it's a concierge style, so it's very, very high touch. We spend a lot of time in advance of their arrival for the families, and so I literally handhold them all the way, all through the process, which lasts sometimes for months.
Mm-hmm. So what made you want to start City Match?
Well, London has been significantly underserved in this area. There was a market need. I saw this about more than 5 years ago, probably about 7 years ago.
Okay.
And at the time, I thought that I would like to pursue the settlement services business for particularly for the tech sector. That's something I knew. I worked in the tech sector for about 5 years as the director at Tech Alliance. And but at the time, it was just personally wasn't a really great time for me. And entrepreneurship is about putting all your resources in. And if you don't have that, it's just probably best to wait until you do. Mm-hmm. So and at the same time, the economy started to look very different in London, and we don't have to rehash that, but we've been through that some challenging days, and so the market wasn't I think ready for City Match at the time. So I waited.
So how long has City Match been operating?
Since June.
This year?
Yes.
Wow.
Brand new.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It was a big jump.
Is this the first time you've been into entrepreneurship?
This is this is my first business.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If I would be fibbing a little bit. I did have a part-time business years ago.
Okay.
And I worked from home. I mean, I worked at nighttime after my full-time job.
A side gig.
No, I wasn't a psychic. No. It was, I was writing, I was supporting executives with resume writing.
Okay.
I actually did that
It's like a freelance type.
I was a freelance resume writer and cover letter writer. So I did that in the evenings. I made a pittance, but it was enjoyable and kept me out of trouble.
Absolutely.
So, but this is the first time where I left my employer and jumped in with 2 feet.
So what's been the most interesting part of your job so far, your new business so far?
What's been interesting is I think what I found is I had an idea of how long the engagements would be, and I knew that they would be a minimum of 30 days. Maybe, on average, I thought 3 months. But I noticed that the people who are relocating, my clients right now are international, so the relocation process is a lot longer. And that's great for me. I don't mind. It's basically, how when they arrive, so I'm doing a lot of front end work. So it's just been interesting because I had an assumption And for the international, it's a little longer, which is great. I'm learning at the same time in terms of the learning of the process of working with an international relocated family. So that's been new.
So my next question for that is, how do you get paid?
Well, I get paid like anyone else, but my client is an employer, so companies pay me for my fee. I guess employees could pay for me on their own as an individual or as an individual family. But
so the company hiring the employee.
Yes, my clients are progressive employers here in the city that see great value in making sure that whether they're executives, mid-level management, or specialists in their field, have that soft landing. So they see that value. This service is more than a settlement provider, although that is a core service.
Yeah,
I see this as a talent management service provider. I help companies not only with the retention program. So when there's a high level of stress, as I mentioned previously, we talked about how families that are asked to relocate to a new community, they make a lot of decisions, and sometimes they make a decision for a spouse to leave their income stream. Yeah. They are uprooting their children that may have family to take help with childcare and all of that. And so if they come to the community and they're not thriving, the likelihood that they return to their home city, their home province, their home country is high. It's a very costly. It's very costly for failed relocation. Okay. It's very disruptive for a company. There's a lot of lost revenue. Well, not revenue, but there's a cost to losing people. And generally speaking, it's failed relocations is often because the family is struggling. Sure, the employee, has a meaningful job, is enjoying their work, but if the family and the spouse isn't thriving, there's a high risk. Additionally, HR and human resources or people who are hiring are sort of operating at a disadvantage too. They can't really ask, these personal questions like how is your husband doing? How is your partner doing? Yeah,
because that wouldn't really be that cooperative.
No, I mean, it's just there. I mean, maybe some companies have a really open dialogue, and and that's fine. But it can be a blind spot. So we've heard, and this was something that I noticed when I was with Tech Alliance with some of the companies we were talking to. The companies here in the city could attract talent from anywhere.
Yeah.
Wonderful people. They would come in, they would be a great fit, value add to the production team or whatever the industry. And 9 months later, it would be a shock to the organization because the person would say, we're leaving.
Yeah.
My spouse hated it here, just couldn't find a connection here, couldn't make friends here. And it's a shame. I mean, so sometimes spouses are overlooked in the relocation process. So this service is really focused on families. So anybody going through the City Match process is a family. So it's I speak with the employee, the spouse, and sometimes I'll engage. Obviously, I look to obviously support the children as well. So, yeah. So
you're working probably with a lot of the employers here in London that you've met through Tech Alliance. Yes.
Well, Tech Alliance is it's a great network that great member organization that I've been a part of in the past, and I certainly cultivated strong relationships in that sector. Yeah. But surprisingly enough, although the tech sector there are clients that I'm supporting that are in the tech sector, I'm actually doing some interesting work in the I would say the healthcare sector. That's something that was really interesting for me. I knew this would be a need because I knew there was a need for this in the marketplace, but I was assuming that this would take some time to get the word out. I knew I could leverage my Tech Alliance or my relationships with the technology community, but I didn't know how quickly I could move into the healthcare sector.
And is that what you want to focus on now, or are you just keeping yourself diverse?
The work I do is really doesn't matter what the industry is. it's really about the organization. So I'm focusing on organizations that really see talent management as really take a strategic approach to talent management in terms of attraction and retention. So they can be found in lots of different sectors. And so, as you can imagine, in the healthcare sector, when they're pulling it, bringing in physicians and so on from other countries or other cities, they're looking for specialists as well. So that's something that I was surprised, but I sort of knew that could happen.
Okay.
So that's interesting. The other piece I should mention, we talked about settlement. Mm-hmm. The other piece is there's an attraction component too. So companies have approached me about getting involved up front before an employee actually says yes and relocates. Okay. So this is interesting. I knew that there was a potential here, but there was a few companies I talked to. They were like, well, could you, if we're trying to, attract a senior person from another city, could you meet them at the airport? Could you show them around the city? Okay. Could you talk to them about what the city offers and maybe meet with their spouse for the afternoon? And so as part of their efforts to woo and attract talent. So that's really great. And that really feeds into a background I have, which is recruitment.
Did you expect your business to evolve this way? Or
no, it was there. It was part of it, but I thought would be a rollout after the fact, but there was clearly a need for that with the clients or the companies I'm talking to. Yeah. So, which I like, because it is, I worked in recruiting for a number of years before I've had an interesting journey in my career, but I worked in that space. So one of the things that's really interesting is recruiters will, recruitment consultants or recruiters within organizations will are able to bring in candidates for a position, and some of them, if they're recruiters from outside London, they really have a difficult time selling London, because how can they speak to the community if they don't live here, right? Right. So there's a trade-off. So companies will work with recruiters, for instance, in Toronto, because they want to access that talent pool, but then the recruiter is at a disadvantage because they're not able to communicate the offerings of London and be able to provide some intelligence so that the prospective employee can make an informed decision to say yes. Now you can
fill that gap.
I can fill that gap. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what's your core marketing strategy to make a City Match what you want it to be?
Well, like any entrepreneur, I mean, the big thing for me was as soon as I launched the business, I reached out to my network, and I have a pretty big network, and I'm really lucky to have cultivated that over the years. And so,
how many years do you think it took to cultivate?
It took I would say a good 10 years.
Okay,
I would say something like that. So when I launched, I reached out to, that was my soft landing, right? Like I reached out to my community, the community that I knew, the network that I have been a part of. So that was the big letting everybody know. Then I was fortunate because I had some media pickup right at the get-go. So that was some earned media, free media that I'll take and say thank you very much for that, because that really, really helped really, sort of speed up my marketing strategy, because I had these on goals and nice to have. You have your little wish list that you would hope that
your
maybe
marketing mix and
maybe Business London Magazine might do a story in the first year or first 2 years. So I didn't anticipate it would be the first month. So I had those. That opportunity, and but like anything, it's through the network. It's actually there's some social media, although I am struggling with finding the time now, because I'm wearing lots of hats.
Yeah. So where can others find out more information about you and follow up with your story?
You can find me online at www.citymatch.ca, or find me on LinkedIn, on Google+, on Twitter. My Twitter handle is CityMatchLDN. and certainly Facebook, but that's more of a personal one.
Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Really appreciated coming on the show.
And thank you so much for watching and listening to this week's episode. Make sure to subscribe to iTunes and Stitcher Radio and find us at londonpreneurs.com. Thanks again. We'll talk to you next week.